And each day at this time, we turn things over to our NFL insider, Eagles insider, John McMullen from 97.3 ESPN.com and FanRagSports.com. John, Josh gave me something to ask you off the top, but of course, you know where my question goes. Top gun, tail gun, scampi, Southwest sauce. What you going with?
That's a good question. I'm always going to go seafood route, so I'm always going to go in that direction. I'm not going to stick to the wings. So if I'm going somewhere like that, I'm going crabs, I'm going scampi, scallops, something.
I enjoyed the fact.
I know you don't like seafood.
No, I'm on the seafood diet. I see it and I eat it. Seafood diet. Yes. The almost healthy special today is the blackened shrimp Caesar wrap for $10.99. So that's right up your alley?
Right up my alley. Gotta go fish. And it isn't working, as you know. You've seen me.
And you've seen me.
I gotta lose weight, but I'm trying.
I don't even pretend like I'm trying anymore. I just say that I'm trying to live my life and have fun. Y'all have a good time. Hey, John, I'm talking about alleys. Or you said don't go up that alley. Well, Darrelle Revis, I don't know whether he was in an alley, but he definitely got in some trouble. And now the news comes out. All the criminal charges dismissed against Darrelle Revis. What's the latest on Darrelle Revis and Revis Island?
Yeah, it was always going to be difficult from a legal standpoint to prove much in that particular case. So it's no surprise that the legal aspect of it's over, and Darrelle's not going to get in any trouble from that standpoint. So things are clear for him to move forward with his NFL career. I wouldn't imagine he would face any further discipline from the league standpoint. But the question for him is, he talked today, and he mentioned, obviously he played at Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh native, that he'd love to play for the Steelers. But the question for Darrelle Revis is, how much do you want to play for? The Jets have to pay him $6 million, even though he's not going to be playing there. So say he signs for $7 million or $8 million in Pittsburgh, in essence, or anywhere else for that matter, he's playing for $1 million or $2 million, and this is a guy who's used to making a heck of a lot of money. So I'm interested to see if Darrelle Revis looks at the market and sees the kind of contracts being offered, if he even wants to play football anymore. Today he said he wanted to. So it's going to be interesting to see how that moves forward.
John, if he does want to play football, he's probably not going to play cornerback. So, first of all, do you think that he will make the change to safety? And if he does make the move to safety, is there a team out there willing to take a risk on a guy like him? Not obviously a legal risk as much, but a risk on a guy who really didn't play that well last year.
No, he didn't. Yeah, and that's the issue, because he's an aging guy who projects to change positions. Now, he mentioned also today he's comfortable with that, and others have done it, most notably the Woodsons most recently, Rod Woodson, Charles Woodson, both made that change in their career and went on to have a lot of success at the safety position. But the NFL's changed even since then, and as we've seen this market develop, they're very wary of playing aging players on the downside of their careers. They're certainly not going to get big numbers. In safety, by and large, you get less money than corners. So throw that into the equation as well. And obviously, despite his name, he's not Eric Berry playing safety. So I don't know if there's a team out there that's going to break the bank to bring in Darrelle Revis to play safety.
John, speaking of guys that play corner, and we're visiting with John McMullen, you have an article up on our website right now on 973ESPN.com about Jalen Mills. I do always love the headlines, too. Mills, a position that we've been talking about almost ad nauseum about the Eagles' needs. But if you could go into a little detail about your piece where Jalen Mills is leading the way.
Well, every year in the collective bargaining agreement, it's set up to reward players who are not highly paid and who end up playing quite a bit. And that's the performance-based program. This year it's about $4 million per team, and it gets divvied up. And Jalen Mills, because he was a seventh-round pick, only making $450,000, which is a pretty good living for the average 20-something. But for an NFL player, it's not a lot of money. So, and he played 65% of the snaps for the Eagles. So, in essence, he was a starter on this team. So he made a lot of money in that program. $324,000, I believe, was the roundabout figure. So basically, he almost doubled his salary because he quickly developed from a seventh-round pick into the starting nickel corner, in essence, for this team. He would come in when they shipped and played a heck of a lot. So it's something that, and it's kind of people get confused by the title because it says performance-based, but it's not really based on success on the field because Jalen struggled at times. We all know that. It's based on how much you play and how much you make. There's a formula, and he didn't make a lot of money, and he played a lot, so he got a big extra check. And when he checked his direct deposit today.
Yeah, I'm a little fascinated by that payday here at the radio station as well, 15th of the month. Beware the Ides of March, John. There were other Eagles that got paycheck boosts as well. Can you run through some of the guys that got more numbers in their paycheck, what they got, and maybe you can go on a little riff about those guys?
Yeah, and as I said, it's mainly the younger guys who are lower round draft choice. Jordan Hicks was second on the list. Obviously, as the starting middle linebacker, still hasn't made big money. As a third-round pick in his second year, he made about $300,000, and there were 11 Eagles overall who made over $100,000 in this program, and most of them are the younger players that got to play. Vaitai and Sayamalo on the offensive line and players like that. So it happens every year, and it as I said, it rewards the younger guys who aren't supposed to be key cogs to the team and end up playing more than expected.
John, where do you think the Eagles are going to go next, considering that, the whole salary cap, how he's doing his salary cap gymnastics? Where do you think he goes next to this offseason? Do you think they're pretty much done, or do you think they might make another move or two before the draft?
Well, I think as far as bringing guys in, I don't think there's going to be anything splashy. You might see a couple one-year deals. Keep wanting to see if they're going to bring in a veteran at the corner position. I still think there's room for movement on the trade market. We know Howie's history and how many trades he's made in the past. And I think as the draft gets closer, that's more likely to occur. And I think there's two players you specifically look at, Jason Kelce on the offense and Michael Kendricks on the defense. I think both of those players, I think Howie would like to move. And I think there's a good chance that he'll be able to move them at some point. It becomes, as I said, it becomes more likely as you get closer to the draft, might even be draft weekend. But no matter what the Eagles say, there's too many bodies on the offensive line right now, especially on the interior, and they could garner a lot of cap room by trading Kelce. And obviously they picked up Michael Kendrick's guarantee, which is pretty significant for a guy who played 30% of the snaps last year. So that indicates they believe they can trade him, because they certainly don't want to pay him if he's going to not be on the field like he was last season. And there's no, with Jordan Hicks here and Nigel Bradham, he's not going to be on the field a lot.
Talking with John McMullen, our 97.3 ESPN.com Eagles insider, also NFL insider for FanRag Sports. John, in the NFL today, one of the bigger news stories was Donta Hightower re-signed to the Patriots, 4-year deal, $19 million guaranteed, but he did go on that free agency tour. So was it one of those things where the grass really isn't green on the other side of the fence?
Yeah, I mean, I think he used the New York Jets to get a little bit more out of the Patriots. He didn't take the Jets' cupcakes because he visited the Jets on his birthday, and they made him cupcakes, and he had the nerve to turn down $12 million a year and cupcakes. And, it's Dante Hightower's used to winning. I mean, going all the way back to college, he has won a lot. And I just don't think he wanted to leave that culture. And by all accounts, he took significantly less money to go back to the Patriots. Essentially $19 million guaranteed. It's 5 years, $42 million. We all know these deals tend to be really glorified 2-year contracts. So if you take the guaranteed money, he's getting about $10 million a year. So he took less money to go back to the Patriots.
John McMullen with us here on 97.3 ESPN.com, and we're talk a little bit about NFL football news. Things quieting down finally, at least a little bit as far as free agency goes, quieting a little bit, but still plenty of hurdles out there to go and benchmarks to hit, if you will. Also, you can read John's work on FanRagSports.com. John, the name Bill Callahan popped up in the NFL news today, and before I ask you the question, I'll say that Bill Callahan, in my opinion, single-handedly ruined the Nebraska football program, and they haven't been the same since. I don't know if you know this, PT Rant, but he came to Nebraska after Frank Solich was fired. Frank Solich, who, by the way, was fired for going 9-3 and getting them to a bowl game. Frank Solich should have been like the Buddy Ryan, named his horse fired for winning, right? So they bring Bill Callahan in, and the first thing he did was he eliminated the walk-on program and thought that he could treat it like he did the Oakland Raiders. But anyhow, that's my Bill Callahan rant on why I'm not a big fan of Bill Callahan. He's in the news, though. Go ahead.
Yeah, as you know, Tom Osborne, if there's some way you could replicate that, that's what the people in Nebraska would want, but that's not easy to do. I always thought Bill Callahan was more of an NFL guy, and I think that played out on the college level because it is a lot different. It's, on the NFL, and I think when we always talk about Chip Kelly and people would claim, basically after the week after he got here, I think the first rumor started about him going back to college, and I never bought into them because I think Chip really enjoyed the professional level because you don't have to deal with all the ancillary stuff. And, whether it's recruiting, sitting in a kid's living room and trying to convince his parents, I think certain guys don't do well in that type of situation and they prefer the professional level. I always thought that was Bill Callahan to me.
And, of course, the Redskins' offseason's been so focused on the front office fiasco, but that's where Bill Callahan is. He's their offensive line coach. Today, the news comes out they've promoted him to assistant head coach. Is that a bad sign for Jay Gruden?
No, Jay Gruden just got an extension. In fact, he's the first in the Daniel Snyder era to ever get a second contract, the first head coach. So he's, relatively comfortable this season, but there's no question. Hey, we've seen it. Bruce Allen and Scott McClugan used to be best friends, and, Bruce Allen's trying to hide the knife that he plunged in Scott McClugan's back right now. So, Bill Callahan's now in that position that if things go awry, and hey, it's not to say he would try to stir up anything like that because he's a professional, but it doesn't take a lot for Daniel Snyder to get into hysteria, and he would be the next guy in line probably. So while Gruden's safe now, if we're having this conversation in a year or two, it might be completely different.
John McMullen here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Well, one of your favorite teams that you like to mention and talk about is in the news. That's the Minnesota Vikings. They re-signed a wideout today, and also Terrence Newman. Tell me about the Vikings moves.
Well, Adam Thielen is one of those guys who really broke out last season, almost had a 1,000-yard season at receiver. And he was an undrafted guy. And he was a local kid. He went to Minnesota State, a smaller college program, and all of a sudden He's developed into a really, really well-rounded receiver, runs tremendous routes. And, it's something that's interesting. We talked about it with Carson Wentz coming out of a smaller school. In a lot of ways, it helped him because of the type of offense they played. It was more of a pro style, where some of the guys coming out of college, most notably Jared Goff, who was picked ahead of him in Cal, played that bear raid offense, which is a spread that you don't do a lot of things you're asked to do at the NFL level. So in a weird way, even though Jared Goff played at a higher level, Carson Wentz was more prepared to play in the pros just because he was asked to do things at the line of scrimmage and change protections and go through NFL level progressions. And Goff wasn't ever asked to do that. In a way, Thielen's like that. And he played in college where he was asked to run routes. So many guys get to the NFL. They're just manufactured touch guys. They don't know how to run simple routes, and you have to teach them. So in some ways, playing at a lesser level that plays at a different program, if you can work and you're an athlete, you can develop into a player. And I think that's what happened with him. We kind of talked about Terrence Newman yesterday. I thought he would have been a great fit to sort of mentor the young Eagles corners, but obviously that's out the window.
I think you touched on something there in your answer about Adam Thielen that I find interesting, and I think you and I have talked about off the air, is just the way the NFL is set up in a situation where the NBA has the D League, baseball has minor leagues, hockey has minor leagues. There's the development area for the NFL is allegedly college, but do you think they do a good enough job of developing? Are the college players ready to play in the NFL all the time in your experience?
Well, they used to. They don't anymore. And NFL people are very frustrated by it. But I always tell them it's not a college coach's job to get players ready for you. They've always had that mentality that you should be getting these players ready for the next level. Hey, college coaches have to win at their jobs to keep their jobs. So they're doing what's best for them. And a lot of times, that's not what's good for the kid when he hits the next level. But I don't know how you change that unless you develop your own developmental system. And the NFL wants no part of that because it would be too costly. And obviously, college football is so popular, it would be tough to get kids to say, I'm not going to go play at Alabama. I'm going to play for the Birmingham whatever in the developmental league. So I don't know how you do fix it, except you just have to teach the kids and accept your lot in life and say, they're not ready. It's our job to teach them and get them ready.
I don't know that we've asked you enough Eagles questions in this segment, although we did talk a little bit about your article on 973 ESPN. But the question that I have some people coming up to me and asking, where is Connor Barwin headed next? Where do you think Connor Barwin lands?
Well, he's out visiting the Rams today, and I wouldn't be surprised if he signed there. Because remember, Wade Phillips is now out in Los Angeles as the defensive coordinator, and he plays a 3-4 attacking scheme. That's a better fit for Connor Barwin. So I wouldn't be surprised if before the end of the day today, you're going to hear Connor Barwin signing with the Los Angeles Rams.
Connor Barwin, Los Angeles Rams, is John McMullen. He's our Eagles insider on 973ESPN.com, also a NFL analyst for FanRagSports.com. And, John, the NFL never sleeps, does it?
No, it does not, and neither do I, Pete.
I haven't been getting enough sleep lately, but that's maybe an insomnia thing because I stayed up late to watch those Sixers last night, and they did not pull off the deal. Although Mike Gill would probably say losing is winning, right? He thinks that's a good thing. So
always losing is winning until it's not. And I want to know on that point, when we get to that point, that's when I'll be excited about the Sixers. When losing is no longer winning, I will be excited by the Sixers.
Sounds good. Thanks, John. We appreciate your time, as always, every day on the Sports Bash here in the 4 o'clock hour. That's John McMullen.